All right, it is Monday, April 17th at 6 p.m. We'll call our meeting to order. Start off with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we'll have the roll call.
Simonson.
Yes.
Rick Earl.
Yes.
Lyon.
Yes.
Hollister.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
Alinger.
Yes.
Holm.
All right, next we'll have approval of tonight's agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Colister, seconded by Coleman. We have no discussion. Take the roll.
Rick Earl.
Yes.
Lyon.
Yes.
Hollister.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
Alinger.
Yes.
Simonson.
Yes.
Item 5 is public participation. Do we have anybody in the audience who'd like to get up and address the council? Anyone in Zoom land? If not, we'll move on. Item 6 is our consent agenda, consisting of the minutes of the April 3rd, 2023 regular city council meeting, bills payable through April 3rd, 2023 in the amount of $611.01, March finance report, renewal special class C retail alcohol license filed by Onward Fine Arts Center, a renewal of a class E retail alcohol permit filed by Main Street Tobacco Shop. That's it.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Colister, seconded by Coolman. If we have no discussion, take the roll.
Lyon.
Yes.
Hollister.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
Alinger.
Yes.
Simonson.
Yes.
Rick Earl.
Yes.
Okay, item 7 is a public hearing regarding 50% budget reimbursement benchmark review for 20 CVN-040 Innovate 120 Building Facilities Improvement Grant. Go ahead, Josh.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. ECIA Representative Dan Lobianco is on Zoom tonight. He's rightly unmuted himself. This is a required 50% reporting portion, and I'll turn it over to Dan from here. Dan, take it away.
Thanks, Josh. Everyone can hear me all right, correct?
Correct?
Yes.
Very good. So simply as a reminder, we have some required language to go through. So I'm going to read most of my remarks, but can be interrupted if someone has a question. But as a reminder, we applied for this CDBG COVID funding grant to assist Innovate 120 and staff, as well as the Jackson County Economic Alliance, with their clearly defined project. This facility will be a new catalyst for connecting with and serving the residents of this community. Innovate 120 will provide state-of-the-art facility and a proven program framework to engage youth and adults in exploring their own potential. The COVID-19 pandemic forced businesses of all sizes to close their offices and send employees home to figure out how to work remotely. Many individuals do not have the reliable internet in their homes for online meetings or the space to meet in person and safely. Because of COVID, many job interviews are now held virtually. The need to access the internet for socialization has also increased dramatically. The proposed project will result in increased participation by citizens in activities reliant on technology. With this grant, the scope from bidding to completion was set for less than a year. The typical CDBG grant has a multiple year time frame, like our facades projects. So we flew by the 50% project and completion mark in February and approved the bills for that in March. At that point, we had utility work and general carpentry completed for all 4 major rooms associated with the grant: the main lobby, the main conference room, the kitchen cafe, and the classroom computer lab. You had another pay app to approve on the agenda this evening that represents the finishes such as flooring, glasswork, and a change order that included a beautiful and necessary mezzanine railing, and they have all been installed. In fact, we are currently within $70,000 of the original total grant scope of work for this project. As with another grant that we'll talk about, the Y grant, just in a little bit, other than supply chain issues and prices of materials skyrocketing since estimates a year ago, the build out has gone as planned. Grant funds ended up covering less than the project less of the project than we had hoped, but no changes other than some technology equipment purchases and installation being placed outside of our scope and to occur immediately after this grant is closed. Those are the only things that have changed since the application. The budget in front of you, or that you had in your packet, reflects the draws to date, and you will soon see a budget spending summarizing the entire balance of $508,750 on this project. Our original performance target was to reach the halfway point within 6 months and be complete by May 31st. We subsequently pushed the completion date up, but we are nearing the closure and expect a state official visit to this site on May 18th. So this was the basic summary of the activities, project scope, objectives, and beneficiaries for the Innovate 120 Historic Building Rehabilitation Project at 120 South Main. If anyone has any questions, I am here to answer them, or will find an answer soon. And as always, you can let me know if you have additional questions, comments, or concerns in the future.
Does anybody have any questions?
No question, just a comment. I toured the building today. It's just an amazing transformation, amazing building. I think it's going to be a super addition to the downtown.
Okay. Well,
Motion to close the public hearing.
motion by Colister, seconded by Lyon. If we have no more discussion, take the roll.
Colister,
Yes.
Coolman,
Yes.
Alinger,
Yes.
Simonson,
Yes.
Rick Earl,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Okay, that one passes. Item B is a public hearing regarding 50% budget reimbursement benchmark review for 20-CVN-034, the YMCA Community Facilities Improvement Grant.
Mayor, council, let Dan take it from here again.
Yes, and some of this language will sound familiar, but it is again required. This probably is just a hair shorter than the Innovate one. So simply as a reminder, we applied for this CDBG COVID funding grant as local citizens were ready to move past COVID-19. Individuals wanted to, and still do want to, remain safe and healthy, but also resume their lives and get back to activities that help them be healthier and enjoy a fuller life. The project was to assist the YMCA and its members with healthier air quality and overall better health outcomes, and increase the comfort level of the members to ensure increased usage and offer opportunities for additional growth and membership. The main element in this funding was to replace and update the broken HVAC unit for the pool area. With this grant scope from bidding to completion, it was set for less than a year. The typical CDBG loan has a multiple year time frame, as we said, like our facade projects. So we flew by the 50% project completion mark in February and approved the bills for that in March. At that point, we had all units delivered, and Giese was working on the ductwork installation to replace the old equipment. Jackson tuck pointing was just starting on the repair, cleaning, and removing of old paint, and then sealing that pool as well. That is what the budget worksheet you have seen reflects. The fact is, other than punch list items, the project is complete as we speak. The new sealing of the surface, paint, and concrete refurbishing work is also complete, and the HVAC system is functional. Other than supply chain issues and the price of materials skyrocketing since estimates were received a year ago, there was very little change in the project itself. Grant funds ended up covering less. Hang on a second, I have to page down, sorry. Covering less of the project than we had hoped, but no changes other than the new HVAC unit had to be, other than the HVAC had to be a new model because the EPA had changed some of its rules, and that was also COVID related. So the budget in front of you reflects the draws to date, and you will soon see a budget spending summarizing the entire balance of the $500,000 grant. Our original performance target was reached a halfway point within 6 months and to be complete by May 31st. We subsequently pushed the completion date up, but we are nearing closure and expect a state official visit on that same day I mentioned with Innovate, May 18th. This was a basic summary of the activity schedules, project scope, objectives, and beneficiaries for the YMCA pool refurbishing 500 East Summit Street. If anyone has questions, I am here to answer them, or will find an answer soon. And as always, you can let me know if you have additional questions, comments, and concerns in the future.
Okay, do we have anybody who wishes to address the council on this matter?
Motion to close.
Motion by Colister, seconded by Alinger. We have no discussion, take the roll.
Coolman,
Yes.
Alinger.
Yes.
Simonson.
Yes.
Rick Earl.
Yes.
Lyon.
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Okay, item C is a public hearing regarding State of Iowa 2023 CDBG Upper Story Housing Agreement on behalf of 114 East Platt Street.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I wasn't sure if this one was going to make it to the agenda as of the last meeting, but JCA and ECIA Dan, who's on, have been able to contact the owner, and they're full steam ahead for providing all local match cost and grant writing fees to try to go after a CDBG grant for more apartments downtown. Dan, Kelly, do you know offhand how many apartments they would be looking for in the upper story?
Yeah. Right now, we have a drawing in place for 4 apartments. Now, with the grant, if there would be reason as we got more detailed, if we received the money and got more detailed look at the building and decided to go a little bit bigger, certainly it has the floor plan space. But right now, we plan on 4 apartments up there, and Kelly can correct me if I'm wrong.
Thank you, Dan. So of the apartments that are habitable downtown, I think this is a good investment and continues to be a good investment because the numbers show us that people are wanting to live within a walkable distance of downtown restaurants. And all good news for the council that the local match costs are provided here for and grant writing fees are private.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council on this matter?
Motion to close.
Got a motion by Colister,
Second.
seconded by Rickroll. We have no more discussion, take the roll.
Alinger.
Yes.
Simonson.
Yes.
Rick Earl.
Yes.
Lyon.
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
Okay, we move on to item 8, which is old business. And A is an ordinance designating the 2023 City-Wide Urban Revitalization Area of the City of Maquoketa. This is our second reading on this.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I don't have much to add to this besides what we covered past several months. A couple questions have come up about when they could apply for this program, and it's this year, if the work is completed after the adoption of this will be acceptable to us according to our attorney. And another important note of this program, and really it's your developmental agreement with a couple different, the Meadow Park subdivision, BSM2 that you signed in 2021, that's the subdivision at Summit and Western. All of those properties cannot participate in this program because that's all related to a TIF increment agreement that we currently have. That's in your development agreement, that can't change. However, that being said, this program still is very powerful, and even if it could be applied to those homes, it's only for up to value of $75,000, and those homes are gonna well exceed that amount anyway. But I just wanna make sure that you're all perfectly clear on that.
Okay, do we have anything else to add to this? Can we get a motion to,
So moved.
who did we name? Lyon, we have a motion by Lyon,
Second.
seconded by Rickroll. Go ahead and take the roll.
Simonson.
Yes.
Rick Earl.
Yes.
Lyon.
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
Alinger.
Yes.
All right, item B is a resolution setting Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023 at 6 PM as a public hearing date for the sale of city property at the airport, being 3.59 acres.
Mayor, can I actually interrupt you and go back to the last item if it's okay? We haven't heard any negative comment at all as staff, and I'm not sure if anyone up here has, but if it's okay with you, I would welcome
Third
a
reading?
motion for a third reading.
Move we suspend the rules and proceed with the third reading?
Okay, we have a motion by Lyon,
Second.
seconded by Rickroll, so go ahead with the third reading on that. So go ahead and take the roll.
Rick Earl.
Yes.
Lyon.
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
Alinger.
Yes.
Simonson.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Now,
Need to do the third
Now,
reading. You need a
I make a
motion.
motion to approve, to do the third reading.
Okay, we have a motion to do third reading,
Second.
seconded by Rickrell. So go ahead and take the roll.
Lyon,
Yes.
Colister,
Yes.
Coolman,
Yes.
Alinger,
yes,
Simonson.
Yes.
Rickrell.
Yes.
Okay, now it passes. Now we talk about a resolution setting Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023 at 6 PM as a public hearing date for sale of city airport property at 3.59 acres.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This was just a small oversight of our staff. We didn't get a notice officially to the paper in time, so we have to just back up 2 weeks and reset the public hearing for this, and then we'll continue to move forward at the next meeting.
Okay,
So moved.
Second.
motion by Lyon, seconded by Coleman. If we have no discussion, take the roll.
Colister,
Yes.
Coolman,
Yes.
Alinger,
yes,
Simonson.
Yes.
Rickrell.
Yes.
Lyon.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item C is a resolution approving Community Development Block Downtown Revitalization, or DTR, grant for the City of Maquoketa at 114 East Platt Street Upper Story Housing Project.
No further comment on this, Mayor, Council. It's just related to the public hearing we had at 114.
So moved.
Okay, we've got a motion by Simonson,
second,
seconded by Alinger. And if we have no discussion, take the roll.
Coolman,
Yes.
Alinger,
yes,
Simonson.
Yes.
Rickrell.
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. We move on to item 9, which is new business. A is a discussion and possible motion to approve WHKS December invoice of $10,360.12 and the April invoice of $6,766.03 for construction engineering on the South Main Trail Project.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. A couple things on this one. I was contacted by WHKS a couple months ago about this bill on the $6,766 one. Did not know about the $10,000 one, but that was well within our contract limit. But the $10,000 bill just barely exceeds our total contract amount. And following our purchase policy, we should be bringing these things to you when they're contract related, though the agreement we signed was for an estimate, and that was part of their point in this, is saying, hey, where do you fall on this bill here? We were close to our contract limit. We had quite a bit of project savings with this, and we had more project time in this than originally anticipated. And so didn't want to put it in the bills list, can't put it in the bills list, and I wanted to call this out as a discussion and motion to pay. I mentioned that there's a pretty substantial fund balance specific to this project that's still out there and can absorb this. That amounts to $257,000 as of today. Obviously, as staff, we feel completely comfortable paying this bill. We hope you do too, and the project was a good connector trail and overall a good value for South Main Street.
Do you have any questions or a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Lyon,
second,
seconded by Alinger. We have no more discussion, take the roll.
Alinger,
yes,
Simonson.
Yes.
Rickrell.
Yes.
Lyon,
Lyon?
Yes.
Colister,
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Item B is a resolution authorizing city clerk to make the appropriate interfund transfers of sums and record the same in the appropriate manner for fiscal year 23-24 for the city of Maquoketa.
Mayor, Council, this one's routine business. As soon as our budget is really passed, we start working on the resolutions transfer. This is the same one we passed last year.
So moved.
Got a motion by Simonson,
Second.
seconded by Rickrell. If there's no discussion, take the roll.
Simonson.
Yes.
Rickrell.
Yes.
Lyon.
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
Alinger.
yes,
Okay, that passes. Item C is a discussion and consideration of Chig Fry Excavating proposed Platt Street project plan amendments, approval of proposed plan amendments, and authorization to proceed in scope only. Cost of materials and labor to be paid by the city shall not exceed those amounts subsequently approved for payment by the Iowa Department of Transportation. Go ahead and break that down.
Thank you, Council, Mayor. Quite a few people in the room tonight who've probably lost sleep over this and trying to finish it up, and Andy's with us tonight to go over a few things. we're largely looking at Chig-Fry completing their work first week of May, hopefully even, perhaps middle, which would be wonderful. But Public Works Committee and staff got together to speak specifically about some of these elevation and drainage issues, which is the first bullet point that we're discussing here, as well as a couple ADA requirements that we have to reach for a certificate of completion. Internally, we're continue to be concerned about, one, we've been reducing planters and going to historic pavers to try to encourage less involvement with maintaining the project after the fact. That would mean, you know, sending a water truck or a water barrel out at 5 in the morning and having part-time staff to do garden beds and these things. They're not raised garden beds either, so there's some outstanding concern about what the health of the soil is in 2 or 3 years after road grime and salt becomes infiltrated into the ground there as well. So in the spirit of kind of staying consistent with our Main Street project and those use of historic pavers, as well as all of the pavers that you currently see at Platt and Olive Street, we're in possession of quite a few bricks that need to be put somewhere. And so where we're struggling as staff and where I think we need to have some conversation, Andy's kind of come down to speak about a few of these things, is, you know, internally we're having some discussion with Chig-Fry Excavating over some scope of work, but in no way are we sitting here looking at historic pavers and saying we agree to $250,000 in paver price install. I mean, that's subject to IDOT approval and some overwatch above us. Andy would tell you the same thing. So, continuing this conversation, we've set a meeting with IDOT staff on Wednesday afternoon to discuss what it is that needs to be finished in this project. And we just want to talk out a few things here. And I'll just say, of the items that have a bullet next to them, the Main Street signal head change of about $7,700, you can pull that off this motion, okay? That isn't going to be needed anymore due to a parking downtown change. The rest of the items, though, Andy will cover here, largely required to get us to where we need to be, but we continue to struggle with some of these prices that are shown by us that need to be agreed upon in the future. So I'd like to have some options built out here together and we can have some good discussion.
So is this our punch list, or is this like just kind of things that were generally kind of missed?
These are still items that need to be completed,
Okay,
Kevin.
I would say a little bit of both, too.
okay.
There's some needs and there's some wants in that. Obviously, there's local choice and us wanting to go from planters into bricks. I mean, you're going to experience a return on investment a few years after the fact, as soon as you're not hiring someone, as soon as you're not thinking about mobile water, what to do with all that time, replacing soil, mulch, whatever else have you, weed pulling, all these things. And there's just way too much volume out there to even be thinking about on plants. I don't mean to steal your thunder, Andy.
Well, it's the third time that's come up now. I mean, how many times are we gonna say we're gonna see a savings in the end, and then we see 200 and something thousand to replace the bricks? I mean, that conversation's getting old about these planters. I mean, it's just ridiculous they were put in there to begin with. It's frustrating. And then I see $2,000 to extend one push button. Are we serious? It says one each. So is that the entire intersection, or is that one button for $2,000?
One each for half of that price at one at Westgate and one at Western, so the one each.
So
price
still
would be-
$1,000 for a button? Can we not just do it ourselves? I don't understand how that can cost $1,000. And that's just potatoes on this. I mean, to me, and I'm gonna come out and say it, and nobody probably wants to hear it, we're looking to make up money that they've lost, and I'm not interested in that at all. I feel like they failed on the project. They didn't fail on the project, but things got ahead of them. Costs were over, and I think this is backfill, and I think it's ridiculous. Some of these costs are just absurd, and I don't think there's anybody that can disagree with that.
Well, I would, there are some needs here, ADA related, elevation related. I'm really troubled by the prices I see in pavers at the moment as well, and that's why we'd like to have IDOT, possibly even Federal Highway involved Wednesday afternoon to say, hey, if we stop right now, what does that do to us? And if that's the case, if that's the direction we head tonight, I'll probably call for a special council meeting on Wednesday or Thursday night to discuss our final options with some of these price justifications. And so I know Andy doesn't want to have to do this project anymore. I know everyone involved here doesn't want to have to do this project anymore, myself greatly included. But we really have to find a way to carefully provide a motion here on our requirements. And this title and this entire portion of the agenda was reviewed by our city attorney to make sure that Chig-Fry doesn't make a legal assumption that we're accepting cost prices here. And so, you know, I would say maybe I'm more of a compassionate person. I'm not gonna play any tricks on Chig-Fry or anything, but I even went ahead and messaged their management and said, hey, just so you know, this is our agenda. This is the title of our action that will possibly be motioned. Not a word from them. I don't know what's going on here. I have my theories too.
It seems like we're opening ourselves up for a lawsuit. If we say, let's go ahead with the scope, but we don't agree with your pricing, and they do the work, it just seems like we're opening up a can of worms there.
But we're saying that we're gonna go with whatever the state deems is the appropriate price.
Well, they could honor this. I mean, there's no saying
Well,
that it's
they
gonna be any
could,
savings.
but then I don't see that we have an option. But we're meeting on Wednesday to see what our options are.
We're getting a third party to say whether the prices are right or wrong.
Yeah.
You guys could do what you want. I think this whole thing's BS. So I think that the past change orders, it's just accumulating. And we're getting to a point where we're looking at $500,000 to backfill somebody's pocket. And maybe I'm out of turn on that, but I think it's ridiculous. I think when we talked about the planners the first time and we talked about the reduction in costs, why weren't those costs included in that change order? Right? We talked about these planners several times ago, or several times now, and we were gonna save money, and then it was, oh, now we gotta pay them to take some of the crap back, and it's just another excuse to make more money. It's infuriating. This whole project's been infuriating, but this is just icing on the cake.
I don't mean to start any sort of argument or points on this, but correct me if I'm wrong, we went to 50% reduction on planters before.
Roughly 50%.
I don't think any of those included base ads, reducing those planters out. Because we took the planters out, we didn't backfill it with anything at that point on prior change orders.
That change order 12, if I recall, did include adding the brick pavers to infill the planter beds at that point and remove the plantings from, as Josh says, roughly 50%.
And adding the concrete bathtub to hold the bricks.
Yes.
But that was only for a 48% reduction,
Yeah,
or 50%, whatever it turned out to be.
This is a very detailed question. I'd be surprised if you know it, but do you know if those prices were in line with what's being proposed here?
No. Yes, I do know the answer to that question. No, they were not. Chig-Fry at that time honored the current, essentially, we have contract items for all of this for, well, obviously, we know what the plantings were bid at. We know what the brick paver infills were bid at. They were, they honored those prices at that time. They're now saying that those prices are 2020 prices, frankly, from the fall of 2020. They're not on board or not favorable to honoring those prices now in spring of 2023.
What's the difference?
Answer the question. Well, with the paver, I guess it might help to go through this list for council and mayor to understand, you know, the level of accuracy of the estimates. That these are all estimated costs, to be upfront and clear. Pavement patches, I think the quotes from Chig-Fry are included in the council packets. Those are a direct estimate from Chig-Fry, so pretty accurate pricing there. Custom light pole bases, that was another quote from Chig-Fry sub. The pedestrian push buttons, again, another quote from Chig-Fry sub. Planter bed replacements, now this is a lower level of accuracy estimate. With the turnaround here, we didn't have, Chig-Fry wasn't able to get us a true unit cost price estimate on these. This is more of a budget level cost estimate. So it's based essentially on a percentage of price increases on those items from, you know, a percentage applied to the original bid prices, if that makes sense, for inflation and cost increases over the last 2.5 years. Does that make sense? So it's a percent increase on the unit cost that we do have. It's not a true contractor quote. So it's, the level of accuracy of that one is less accurate. They are working to provide us with those prices, but we just didn't have them in time for this meeting. Main Street signal head updates, that again is a contractor quote, but as Josh mentioned, that as a result of real recent updates, that is likely a no longer needed item. Arcade intersection improvements, again, is a budget level item for the, in terms of the accuracy of the cost
Can I
estimate.
pause you on that one?
Yes.
We were originally discussing that being a $100,000 improvement last year.
Arcade
Arcade,
intersection.
correct?
Well, I think Chig-Fry mentioned $100,000. I mentioned something closer to $30,000.
This is where we ended up.
Yes. Yeah, good point, though. Partial replacement of the sidewalk and drive at 410 West Platte. This is something that I think, as Josh had mentioned, is up for city discussion. It's optional to address some property owner concerns. That cost estimate is budgetary, not a contractor quote at this time, but that's based on unit prices that we do have from the contractor, if that makes sense. They didn't go out there and measure the area themselves. That's something that we've done we've got to confirm that with the contractor as far as the amount of pavement to replace, but the unit costs that we use are accurate. Replacement alley, sidewalk, and panels, that's the same thing, where the unit prices have been agreed to by the contractor, or provided by the contractor, I should say, and the quantity was come up with by us, yet to be agreed to by the contractor. Then the modified sub-base plan quantity, this is kind of a different animal. This is what the DOT calls a plan quantity item, so this item is on the contract for the project to be paid at 100%, unless there are major changes to the amount of that item that have been installed or used or whatever on the project. Well, obviously in this case, there's been a whole lot more pavement patching done and yet to be done. So that's where this extra quantity comes from, which would potentially justify up to that number you see there, but we've got to work with Chig-Fry and the DOT to really agree on how much of that cost is truly justifiable. So that number is a maximum budgetary number at this point, if that makes sense. So I don't know if that helps with the understanding of the level of accuracy in some of these prices. Some of them are yet to be really fleshed out. As far as, the planters, we did the best we could to come up with a cost estimate at this time to consider at the meeting, but that really needs to be nailed down yet. And I certainly can't guarantee that it'll be less, but it's a possibility that it could be less than what I'm showing here. It could be slightly more too. It's just, that's the level of accuracy we have. So hopefully that helps with your discussion.
What other option do we have?
You could, from my perspective as the manager, I think you have two preferred options. One is approve something in partial motion tonight and still have a special meeting Wednesday or Thursday after we speak with DOT, possibly the feds as well. Or you table this entirely until Wednesday or Thursday night. It totally pauses Chig-Fry's construction schedule. And then we decide what we're gonna do that night. Otherwise, there's Mayor, and you were part of the conversation on finances a little bit today. There's answers that need to be perfectly clear to us about this whole finish, and DOT and Federal Highway need to step up to help us. This is a project of $14 million for a city of 6,100. And look what's sunk into this for staff time. Andy, Frank, myself, you. I mean, it's wild to even begin to think about. I mean, it's going to look beautiful, don't get me wrong, but wow, the energy the last few years. I would recommend pausing Chig-Fry and just saying we're going to have a special council meeting Wednesday night. Best case scenario for Chig-Fry is that they start back up Thursday. I believe they're out of work currently. And we see, as I mentioned, I forwarded this right to, the Chick Fry's owner and said, hey, we got legal opinion on this whole section, not a phone call, not an email, not a what is this? I have no idea why. Other than that, I know that there's some price problems and some contentious justifications that continue to not be proven at the state level too, which is why your last change order was much smaller than anticipated for work that's already been done and approved by you. So there's a lot that needs answered on their end. And I shouldn't, give them a terrible time because they did do good work. It's just suddenly in the last several months, I feel like all of a sudden price is the number one priority. And we need to be helped.
And Josh is right, it is very complicated when you get to this part of the project, of the things that have to be looked at, balanced. All your i's have to be dotted and your t's have to be crossed just right. And
I do have to question Josh's comment though on Chick Fry's comments of pricing now, because, usually when you're tightening up a project of this magnitude, pricing should be the last thing that you're worried about. You should have already had your percentages of overages and what you should be. And I get COVID and that's the excuse. It's gonna be a 4-year project probably, and we're still not done with it. But I do have some hesitation on that comment, because that little word that says up to 1958 and up to this amount and up to, how many percentages of those are we gonna be at that top dollar? And we're not talking about that 400 and some $1,000 then,
I think once again, this is where the DOT would come in and see if those are fair,
But we see where
fair
the
top dollar prices.
we see where the DOT's helped us with that, with this project too. And as Chick-fil-A trying to recoup some of the costs from, the other engineering firm that potentially screwed up the entire project.
Look at the DOT help at Arcade alone. I mean, they created a headache.
I would also question this 410 West Platte. Is that valid?
That vehicle's bottoming out at that location because of the driveway cut down to the gutter. There's a pretty good angle there that reaches up to the sidewalk, and that, to me, if you look at ground level at that, you can see for whatever reason, the sidewalk comes up and then it goes back down. It's not,
Are we sure it's 410 or is it a different number?
It's the Hall Street, just west of the Penrose, Corey.
That should be an odd number then.
That should be an odd number, that's correct. 410 is on the north side of the street, that's why I'm questioning this.
okay.
I don't think it's right, the house number.
It's next to the county building, the red brick structure.
Okay, then
Branch on the other side.
then I know it's not the correct address. All right.
Question, beyond what we have in this agenda item, are there going to be additional expenses in this project foreseen?
I'll defer to Andy.
Yes, there are. The answer is yes. These are the major outstanding items that anybody's aware of at this time. And really, I mean, you can see the project, it's 99% of the way there. So I don't think there's anything even close to this order of magnitude hanging out there that would come up after this. Can't guarantee anything, but highly unlikely, I would say. There are a number of these if you understood what I was describing with the plan quantity adjustment. For example, all of the driveway placements are planned quantities. So if a driveway had to go back another foot to match an existing joint, we've literally got to do a change order for that 1 foot of driveway. So there will be a number of items like that where the quantities could be adjusted up, and some will be adjusted down because they didn't install for whatever reason. I'm blanking on a good example, but there will be a final change order that adjusts all those planned quantities to what was actually installed if it was significantly or somewhat different from.
And that comes out in the audit between
Correct.
when we do our final.
Yeah, and have we done a kind of a final audit of all of these? As I walk up and down there, I see people whose lawn are significantly below or above grade and stuff like that. Have we proactively went around and looked at every property and kind of cataloged, not just the people who have complained about the issue, but there are people who maybe haven't said anything?
Would you be mostly concerned with like drainage not getting off the property? Cause I know there are some.
Yeah,
properties.
some yards where you just looks like the water's gonna stay in their yard.
I can't say from Origin's perspective that anybody's done a walkthrough of every single property and documented, yes, this is a good to go property and this is potentially a drainage issue. No, nobody has done that to this point, but that can be something we include in our final walkthrough if the city so wishes.
Mark, I was surprised. I went down to the fairgrounds this morning, and those last two houses before the fairgrounds on the north side, there was no water ponding in those two front lawns. I was just surprised.
Yeah, so I just know from walking that stretch of road that there are some yards that I think there's just nowhere for water to go, and I could be wrong. But I'd just like to have somebody who knows what they're doing look at it.
I mean, I know I'd like a final walkthrough, without a doubt. I mean, I think the citizens deserve that without a doubt. I really do.
If we hold this till Wednesday or Thursday, do we breach a contract with the Chig-Bry?
Not that I'm aware of. I think that's our right to do that. We've been pretty clear with them that we get to, our meeting that we had to start up was, everything's contingent on council approval at this point. So, no, I don't know with 100% certainty off the top of my head, but I haven't had that ever be a concern across our entire team here. Do you know of any other contractual issues with just saying, hey, let's have a special on Wednesday or Thursday?
Where we stand with, I can comment on the working day schedule, is that there are no working days being charged, so the contractor isn't, obligated or motivated to be on site at this point because the only outstanding work left, essentially, there's some steps to Port 215 East Platt, I believe, and the street name signs to be dealt with. Other than that, everything outstanding is being considered here tonight. So there's no obligation in terms of the working day contract that I'm aware of for them to be here.
I'll make a motion to hold.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion from Colister. We have a second by Coolman. And this is to just wait and see what.
We'll hold a
how it
special
wash out.
meeting later in the week after
So
the
after we
meeting
hear
on
from 'em.
Wednesday.
See how it washes out.
Tabling this motion.
Tabling.
Okay, do we have any more discussion on this? Then take the roll.
Rickrell,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Coolman,
Yes.
Alinger.
Yes.
Simonson.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Item D is a resolution providing for preliminary approval of urban revitalization tax abatement support for portion of Maquoketa LP for the development of senior housing located at Narren and David Street, contingent on a successful application of housing tax credits with the Iowa Finance Authority.
Well, Mayor, Council, I hope you found this section more interesting and enjoyable in a way. This has been worked on by staff for about a month or so. We were approached by two companies wanting to take advantage of housing tax credits here in Maquoketa. And the best spot we could land is with a senior housing project, 1 and 2 bedrooms, most of them one, for an age-restricted 55 and up community, 48 units. Income restriction being 60% of area moderate income and 40%, 12 of them of those 48 at that 40% level. But they enter into a 30-year contract to manage this complex under those conditions. They can't change. I think I have some fears on other developments that could be coming of a private equity firm that could build and then sell 4 years later, and we have little control. It does give us some comfort that this continues to be senior housing 30 years into the future. And we know from CBRE's study from the old hospital development that it's a need here, and it's a need locally, and there's a wave of population that's approaching the age, and it would be our recommendation to approve this resolution. And some intricate details of the narrative are that with the Meadow Park residential TIF agreement that we have at Summit and Western, that when tax increments actually produced, we'll have to take 40% of that as set aside to spend on low to moderate income somehow. That's a state code. And so we're hoping to, if there's a need there, of course, use this project in part to be able to use those LMI set-aside funds. DeWitt does a really kind of neat program on these set-aside funds where someone under an income category might have an absolute need for a roof but cannot afford it. And so the city set-aside fund helps fund those needing projects out there. So there's lots of creative ways to use these set-aside funds. I think that's a good example of trying to reach good homes in Maquoketa and try to use them for a good purpose. But this is really kind of the first idea we've had on how to use it. It's not in front of you in this motion, but could be in the future. Otherwise, I think that this is a good development, and I haven't heard any negative comments since releasing more of this information. Perhaps you have.
Anybody heard anything on this? I think the most attractive site to me on this is the LMI set-aside, and for the low to moderate incomes. As Josh has said, somebody needs a roof and they can't afford it, or they want to get siding on their house, can't afford it, well, we got a way to help them out. I think it'd go a long way to property improvement in town.
So these will always be,
Senior housing.
senior housing no matter what. So there's no way they can switch, like you said, after 4 years, couldn't be bought or sold, no matter what, it's gonna be senior living from now until the end of time.
It's
Okay.
a 30-year contract. It's almost hard to believe,
Yeah.
but
Then my biggest fear is, like, say if it was bought and sold, after 5 year, the 10-year mark, and then we end up with a bunch of low-income housing, and we all know how the citizens feel about low-income housing, like, they pack in this city hall with 300 people when that comes up to vote. So I guess as long as it's, 30 years and it's gonna be senior living, that does help.
I agree completely, and it is needed.
I'll be dead in 30 years.
I think it's a good location, walking distance, from, so I'll approve it. Motion?
Okay, we got a motion by Simonson, seconded by Lyon. If we have no more discussion, take the roll.
Lyon,
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
Alinger.
Yes.
Simonson.
Yes.
Rick Earl.
Yes.
Okay, passes. Item E is a resolution approving a contract amendment number 1 to reduce the facade east project with Tricon General Contractors to $616,444.
thank you, Mayor, Council. This reduction is due to two owners backing out of the Facade East program, really for reasons unknown. But I'm aware of at least two owners that continue to be interested in becoming a part of the program. It's well within the $1 million cap. This is just approval of that reduction that could go up in the future depending on if those two owners do jump into the program, just so you know.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Lyon, seconded by Colister. If we have no discussion, take the roll.
Colister.
Yes.
Coolman.
Yes.
Alinger.
Yes.
Simonson.
Yes.
Rick Earl.
Yes.
Lyon.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Item F is a resolution updating the City of Maquoketa's fees and fines.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The resolution for fees and fines comes up. Every once in a while, our staff will bring something to me, and, I don't want to bring something forward every time we have something. So when we hit a couple, there's some interest, we try to get this in front of the Finance and Personnel Committee and explain our reasons, what's going on here and why. Currently, we're being charged $60 for a garbage cart replacement, a new one or additional. And so this would just bring the cost back up to 60 instead of 50, because that's passing along the city cost. The landlord request for copies of a tenant 12-day notice is our best answer to a landlord having an interest in making sure that tenants potentially are paying their bills on time. About every shut-off round or so, Jeff helped me out, Judy too, I think we end up with about 60 accounts with 24-hour notices, and to keep up with 60 landlords all at once is completely overwhelming, especially when you have to get the notices out the door and you're collecting payments and trying to keep up with it and post them by 11 and then turn them around by 1 and then taking the phone calls throughout the afternoon. So what we're proposing here is creating an entire side spreadsheet and ability to track landlords that enroll into this program that can have duplicates sent out of when their tenants have I guess, missed payments or a late notice generated. So it's our best time to try to trigger notice to landlords. To keep up at 24-hour door hangers is extremely difficult for us, and this will be automating the process to that 12 days. So that, you know, if you're a landlord, you can check in with such and say, hey, did you get your bill paid? You know, I just made note that we had a copy of it come through. You still have to have the tenant sign off on it because it's an information release. Otherwise, with the envelopes and stamps, I'm not sure how popular this program is going to be or not be, but we figured that this $25 fee annually per apartment or per account would probably be the best solution to get this right.
So moved.
Got a motion by Colister,
Second.
seconded by Simonson. If we have no discussion, take the roll.
Coolman,
No.
Alinger,
Yes.
Simonson,
Yes.
Rick Earl,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Motion passes. Okay, item G is a discussion and possible motion approving payment to Geesey Sheet Metal in the amount of $115,410.
This one's also outside the bills list, Mayor, Council, just to keep things on track and expedited with Dan and ECIA. This Geesey is one of the YMCA CDBG contractors. We'd like to get this project closed out as soon as possible to get other YMCA contractors in, and to wait until May 2nd to do that is not favorable for the schedule. And so this one came in after the bills list due date. Andrea had the numbers together. You know, it was shown to me, I said, well, we really need to get this one paid out because of the schedule requirements for it. That's why it's this own separate item here. Otherwise, it's within contract.
Okay,
So moved.
motion by Colister,
Second.
seconded by Alinger. If we have no discussion, take the roll.
Alinger,
Yes.
Simonson,
Yes.
Rick Earl,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Colister.
Yes.
Coolman,
Yes.
Okay, that passes. Item 10 is reports and communications. Anybody from the council have anything to add for tonight? City manager?
Just have a few things to note. May 6th is the city's spring cleanup day. It's going to start at Horseshoe Pond at 7:30. So we're asking for community volunteers to come out and take part in that. As part of that spring cleanup effort, we're in possession of half-price tags on furniture and appliances. And so those will go on sale starting April 24th. Maquoketa State Bank, Fidelity, and Dupaco all chipped in with that purchase to help us get a little bit of the town cleaned up. I mentioned a council meeting on May 2nd. There's a reason for that. That's a Tuesday night. We'd like to move that to Tuesday night because the University of Iowa IISC event is concluding, and that's the green space and a couple other projects that they've been working. We're hoping to have a presentation on Monday night because it's the only night available to one of the grant administrators that could ultimately help fund the green space project, possibly even in the amount of up to $200,000. So we feel it's prudent on our part to make sure that we keep motivation at the state level to stay tuned to some of the developments there. So we'd like to push that council meeting to May 2nd. Just want to put that on your calendar. And last note, and it's a development from tonight, is I didn't really hear one night or the other, Wednesday or Thursday, of when we should be considering a special council meeting. Is there one that works best for a quorum?
Wednesday for me,
Yeah,
possible.
Wednesday for me.
Okay. We'll aim for that then.
Okay, we have no executive session, so I'd accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Colister,
Second.
seconded by Simonson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.